Now, here's Ed Bernstein.
Well, we have a problem that we're going to resolve for you today, because all of us have this issue with eating and exercise and lifestyle and quality of life. And with me today is Vanessa Chamberlin, the author of The Fire-Driven Life. Now, Vanessa, what is the fire-driven life? I mean, you have to set your body on fire?
Right. Well, actually, it is. You know, when you think about it, when you are running at your best, you're on fire. That's really kind of the impetus of it all. And it's really about how you eat, how you feed your mind, and how you work your body. All of that can give you the result of a fire-driven life.
Right. So how did this all begin? I mean, you look like you're in great shape. You look healthy. You look, you know, sprite and bright and beautiful. I mean, so, you know, why did you have to, you know, write a book like this?
Well, in 2007, kind of the love of my life, my husband, took his life, and obviously that was a pivotal point in my life to answer the door, and there's a coroner with a clipboard to say he's no longer here. About 2 weeks into my grieving process, I found myself balled up on the floor with a choice to make. I said, okay, do I stay down on the floor as a victim, as a poor me, or do I stand tall and be grateful for all that this man provided for my family, for my daughters, for all the gifts that I have from him, and find a better way? And obviously, I made the decision to stand tall and find a better way, because I also knew that something happened here. He had been my foundation. For my entire life, I had looked for outside sources for my self-worth. So that came in the form of relationships, of shoes, of clothes, all the exterior things is what I look for my worth. If I'm thin enough, then I'm loved. If I'm pretty enough, then I'm loved. And I realized when he was gone that I had put myself, yet again, my foundation, my worth, in someone else. So that had to change. There was like finally one of those moments where you're like, okay, something's got to give. So I was on my path, and I didn't know how I was going to get there. But luckily, a well-meaning girlfriend of mine called me one day at a nutrition conference. And she said, you know, Vanessa, I have found this amazing product. It's whole foods in a capsule. It's fruits and vegetables. And oh my God, you have to be a part of this organization and take this. And it's, you can get your kids, and it's free for your kids. So I was in. So we started doing these wellness events, and I loved it. I found something that I loved. I have always loved nutrition, and I loved, I wanted to look great. But this really, it made my heart sing. And I started collecting certifications like I collect shoes. It was just an incredible thing. And along the way, I found love again. And this is an important piece. I found love again. And while I'm taking these classes, someone would say, hey, you need to read this book, The China Study. And I said, yeah, I'll read it. And then another person said, you need to read the book, The China Study. Finally, the third person, one of my mentors, said, hey, Vanessa, please read the book, The China Study. So I picked up this book, and it changed the course of my life. Everything. In this book, it's the largest nutritional study in the world, and Dr. Colin Campbell had done studies in China when Nixon had opened relations with China. They were able to do, they took these populations of people that things don't change. I mean, they eat the same thing every day. It hasn't been really westernized. Like, you couldn't do this anywhere else, and you certainly couldn't do this study again today. But what they found was that the populations, the areas that were eating high levels of meat consumption, had the highest level of cancer rates, of over like 40-some cancers that were popular. And it just got him thinking in such a different way. And he grew up, Dr. Campbell, on a dairy farm. And his whole thesis was about, more dairy is good for us. So it turned everything he had learned on his head. So as I'm reading this book, I'm seeing that everything, like cancer, how to prevent and reverse cancer, diabetes, heart disease. It wasn't like there was all these different diets and things to do, that you take one for heart disease or one for diabetes. It was the simple thing that if you ate a plant-based lifestyle, 10% or less of animal protein if you chose that all the cancer rates would just, like a light switch, would go on and off. So the more protein you ate, over 10%, like a light switch, the cancer would rise. But you bring that back down, and the cancer would stay or reverse. So I remember sitting with my new husband, my new love, and I said, honey, tomorrow we're going to go plant-based, no oil. You know what he said?
Obviously, if you were asking him, he probably did it.
He said, okay.
Yes.
I like that. I lovingly say I had the most compliant husband on the planet. So the very next day, I took my girls and myself on this journey of plant-based, no oil. I didn't know how to do it or what to do, but within days, I was on fire. And I remember telling my husband, thus, this is where the fire-driven life comes. I said, honey, oh my God, I'm on fire, and everyone needs to feel what I'm feeling. I've got the ticket to the healthcare crisis. This is unbelievable. And I didn't have a health challenge. I didn't have any of those things. But I felt a profound shift in my clarity, in my self-worth, in all of that, by the simple thing about caring what I put into my body.
What is the difference between a plant-based diet, a vegan diet, vegetarian?
I'm so glad you asked this, because there are, you know, people. Vegan's the big buzzword, and I don't use the word vegan too often because it's more of a movement than just about food. And you know, vegan can be, you know, I call it the standard American vegan diet, and that's Oreo cookies and soda pop, potato chips, because those are all vegan.
But not really, because Oreo cookies are made with lard, right? With this animal fats that are not really a vegan base.
Well, according to Oreos, it actually is. Like they use a vegetable base.
Okay.
But at any rate, what you know, when someone just says I'm going to be a vegan, there's some really unhealthy vegans out there. It's a step towards the right direction where you're not consuming animal product. But most of these products on the market, you know, 80% of what you find in, you know, in a health food store is junk. You know,
chips, potato chips.
Right, or these packaged foods and all of that. So, so anyway, a vegan diet, though, is you don't consume anything that has a face or a mama. So no animal product whatsoever, and that could be, you know, from dairy to meat, fish, yes, chicken, yes, fish, any kind of thing that has a heartbeat, you just don't eat it. Right. But again, it encompasses everything. Plant-based whole foods, which is what I propose, is the healthiest way to live our life. Is it comes from whole foods. It's as close to nature as possible, so it's not been processed, you know, to be something completely different than itself. Minimally processed, and it comes from nature. It doesn't really require a package most of the time. You know, that's when you know you're in the right. When you're shopping in the produce section, the grains, those don't need labels, because you just know it's a cucumber, and hey, it's good for it. It's a tomato.
But you do need labels, because now there's genetically engineered, there's organic. I mean, it's you know, it's confusing also when you buy vegetables.
It is, and you know, labeling. People get so hung up on labeling. It's very important, obviously, with GMO issues. I'm very, very much against eating GMO.
Can you explain what that is?
It's genetically modified. So what it means is they'll take, you know, kind of in a lab, they will take a, for example, they'll take a fruit or vegetable, and they will add something to it, you know, take the gene expression, make it a little different to withstand a heavy frost. I mean, at one point there was strawberries and parts of salmon they were putting together to kind of have a stronger, hardier strawberry. They are not, your body doesn't recognize this. When we start messing with Mother Nature to create, so it, you know, really Monsanto's the big one behind this, that they want their, you know, you can spray your Ready Roundup and the crops withstand.
Which is a pesticide,
exactly.
more or less, and it's a way
absolutely.
to make the harvest stronger, so it's more plentiful, so it feeds more people, but at the same time you're introducing pesticides.
Exactly, and that's what the whole idea of GMO is. It's going to save the world, and we're going to feed the hungry.
Right.
And I just don't think it's. I do not believe that is really what's happening here. I think it's an issue about selling and marketing, and I don't buy it. Between organic and natural, I think the biggest, you know, kind of one of the biggest things that I speak about, as much as I want people to have organic and eat when they can, at the end of the day, I want you to just eat your fruits and vegetables. So if your first step is to just, you know, choose, because some people say, well, I can't afford organic. Oh my gosh, it's too expensive to live your lifestyle. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do nothing. It's more important to eat the fruits and vegetables, whether they are grown with pesticides or not, than to just put together, just throw the towel in all together. It's a journey. And some people can eat organic and have, you know, that works in their budget, and that's fantastic, and that's really kind of where you want to lean towards. But at the end of the day, let's just eat some more fruits and vegetables.
Well, if it's not organic and you wash it properly, you can
so you can
get
a lot of You can get a lot of, and believe me, the benefits of the fruits and vegetable far outweigh the chemicals that are sprayed on the food.
And how about like when you get, you alluded to it in the beginning of the show about the supplements, you were taking the nutrients that were all fruits and vegetables and capsules.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about because it's a touchy subject. I believe, without a shadow of a doubt, the most important way to get our nutrients and all of our vitamins is in our food. I think we can all agree on that. It's the best way. Mother Nature knows when you eat an orange, all those nutrients that are in orange, and there's hundreds, there's so many that we don't even know that haven't been discovered yet. You eat the orange and your body says, whoo, I know exactly what to do with it. It takes, it's got the fiber it knows what to do with and all the nutrients, and whatever it doesn't need, it expels. Okay, it's a perfect system. When you start taking isolated nutrients in capsule form, unless it's really an adjuvant therapy, if you don't know what you're doing, your body starts, you can make yourself toxic for one thing, but two, you're taking this in, and where you didn't even have a deficiency, your body takes it and says, I don't recognize this. It's not food to me. But we have to break it down. It's come in our system. So you can understand when you just haphazardly go to the drugstore and pick up, which I used to do, and you have a supplement case of 60 vitamins that you're taking, you're doing yourself more harm than good. Now that's not to say that there are people that have deficiencies and under a doctor's care that really knows supplementation, that it can be a great thing because some people, whether their systems are a little different, need that or they're going through a challenge. But the first step really should be get your nutrients from your food first before people eat the most heinous diets and think, because I've got this big box of supplements, that I can just, it's like free reign to eat whatever and take the supplementation.
So it's preferable to get your nutrients from fruits and vegetables, then if there's still a deficiency, you can supplement it with something else.
Exactly, but you know what, really get some guidance on that. That's the biggest thing is, how do you know that you're deficient? Most people like myself, before I knew better, I'm reading in the latest issue of Cosmopolitan or Glamour or Good Housekeeping, and it really takes a partnership with someone, because if you are, and most of the time, if you have to take something, it might just be for a period of time. But again, at the end of the day is our food, if you eat a whole food plant-based diet, eat in season, eat the rainbow, you're getting everything your body needs.
One of my kids now eating raw. So what's the advantage or disadvantage, and how does that work into the fire-driven life?
Okay, well, I love raw. I love raw. I think we should aspire to eat lots of raw. I also believe there's great importance of eating a cooked diet as well, having some things that are cooked. But a raw diet, you get lots of the nutrients that aren't cooked out. I mean, it's an interesting thing because there are some foods that actually the nutrients are better and more receivable to the body when they are cooked. So there's the twofold. But I did for about 5 months, I did the raw, like 100% raw. And I was buzzing, let me just tell you, buzzing like on fire, like to a whole new level. Eating like 5 books every 2 weeks because my brain was clear, I felt light, I felt amazing, and it was during the summer, kind of the warmer months, and just clarity. But then I have a very active lifestyle, and I run, at this point I was running 8 to 11 miles a day, and I realized I needed more, because what happens when you eat a raw diet, if you aren't careful, what some do is that they rely heavily on exorbitant amount of nuts and avocado, which are fantastic for you, but if that's really the only thing you're eating, that you see so many overweight raw foodists. Now, not to say, like I said, there are plenty that are doing it right, but I think that you're missing some categories when it's just raw that are super important to have. But have a salad every day. Have your smoothie and load that up with all your raw fruits and veggies. Eat fruit all day long. I mean, most people don't realize, people that are really eating that shop in the produce department, that they're probably already doing at least 50% raw or 60%. You probably think, oh, I'm not. But if you look at the again, at the salad and the veggies and the fruits that you're having. Right. So it is beneficial. I think it's clean and it's less processed, and that's a good thing. I think
there's a lot of people who, most people would agree that, yeah, it's probably a no-brainer. Fruits and vegetables are better for you. But it's so boring. It's like, what am I going to have for lunch? Sometimes you go out with your family for dinner, and what are we going to have for dinner? And it's like, nobody could think of anything. Here you have lots of suggestions, right?
I do.
Because one of the best bonuses about the book you've written are all the incredible recipes that you've put inside. And I assume that have you created most of these?
Yes, all of them. So let me just tell you, when I was on fire, I mentioned, I was on fire and I needed to share this with the world. And I was taking my classes. I started teaching. And I was teaching from a 6-week wellness course. And my girls were loving it. I was making it alive, making, I'm an edutainer, so I love to make it, if I knew it had to make it sexy and fun and inviting. And one of the big issues was that they didn't, my clients were like, this is great, Vanessa, we understand the how, or we understand the why, but what the heck do we eat? That kept coming back, what the heck do we eat? So I had this brilliant idea that I would start cooking classes. And let me just tell you, I used to have a chef, so like I had a couple things that I knew how to cook, and so I had no training.
No background.
No, but I knew that there was a need that needed to be filled. And so I started teaching these cooking classes and just the simple recipes, and I also knew to get my clients and my family to love on this and to really accept it, it had to taste great. Because I don't care how healthy something is. I'm probably one of the exceptions. I could drink something that's not so great because I know it's good for me and I'll do that. But that's not how you're going to engage and really get the world to shift in this direction. Got to taste fantastic and easy and simple. And that's where these recipes were born. They're, a lot of them 5 or 6 ingredients or less. And understanding that, getting people, away from being afraid to get in the kitchen or afraid of a recipe, and understand it's just a guide. Yeah. It's just a palette, with your paintbrush, and you can mix and match. It's the most freeing thing.
So what is the most favorite recipe at your home?
Oh goodness, well currently it's the African kale stew, and it's funny because even my girls love like all these recipes, by the way, my girls absolutely love. I wouldn't put anything in there because there's a lot that they don't care for so much. But the African kale, it has peanut butter in it, and it has some tomato sauce, and the kale's kind of cooked down, and it's served. You can serve it over couscous or quinoa, and it's so delicious.
Where did this kale come from? 5 years ago, nobody talked about kale. Well, now you can't go into a market without seeing kale everywhere.
I can tell you where it came from. You remember Sizzler? You remember those
steak?
Steakhouses?
Yeah.
You remember those salad bars they have?
Right.
I mean, my first memory of kale came from, it was the little decoration that was around on the ice, all around that.
You shouldn't eat, right?
Right, you shouldn't eat, exactly. It was just like parsley. Most people, it was a nice little thing on the plate you just didn't touch.
Right.
But you're right, it is, honestly, I'm so in love with kale. I love it. It is hearty. It's one of those things you have to know how to work with, because if not, it can taste very bitter. But you massage it with love. I mean, I'm a proponent of putting love into everything. So you put the love in there, but you massage it, chop it really, really finely. But it's got lots of nutrients. But not to say that spinach isn't fantastic, and so is chard. And I mean, kale is the superstar right now, and it is. It's everyone's singing its praises. But let's not. The whole green kingdom of foods are all good, but give kale a try.
Now, you also started talking in the beginning, after you had the tragedy of your husband dying, that it wasn't just food that you were working on. There's other components, and you do talk often about the balance of your life, whether it be emotional, whether it be physical, as well as eating. Because how do you balance the physical? I mean, because the same way there's so many different diets with food, there's so many different workouts to be in shape physically. And then there's so many self-help things for emotional success as well. So how do you get through all these and figure out what's best for an individual?
Well, the reason why this is so important, I mean, I mentioned that I had this kind of aha moment really about 2 years into this lifestyle. I said, oh my God. I mean, literally, it was one of those big, mega light bulb moments. I've tasted my own self-worth. And it came at the end of my fork. And I said, this is incredible, really, when I care about what I put into my body. I have at least 3 meals a day to do that. Everything shifted for me, again, because I looked at all these outside sources, right, for that self-worth, that I had some control. So the food became that foundation of the first thing that I control. And once I had built that foundation, once I felt good enough to be able to work on, this. I mean, the first thing is, no matter what you want to do in life, if what you're putting in your body doesn't fuel you to give you the energy to do it, you can't even take those steps. So I'm a proponent that that's the first thing. Right. Exercise was already there for me. That really kind of came first before even the food did, because I did that at a very young age, and like that endorphin feels. I mean, you think about it now. If people would work out, half the pills that they'd be taking from their doctors, if I'm anxious, I'm nervous, I'm sad, would go away with how you eat and how you move your body. There are 1,000 different ways to work out. It's a blessing and it's a curse, because it's a blessing because we get to go in and it's kind of du jour of the day. What do I feel like doing? But that can also be a shutdown for people where they're like, too many choices, I don't know what to do, so I don't do anything. It's all good to get your body moving in whatever fashion that you can, and whether it's maybe you need a friend to be your partner to kind of hold you accountable. You know, I'm fortunate that I'm very, very self-motivated, but a lot of my clients need that accountability. And they'll say, well, I don't care for this exercise. Well, guess what? If you don't care for, you know, kickboxing, you know, then you can try salsa dancing, or you can try, you know, the key really is finding something that you'll do. It's like, what exercise should I do? The one you'll do. Right. Is really the most important. And so for me, I say work out every day. And I know that people are going to be like, oh my God, that's not a good thing. But I feel like your body doesn't know it's Saturday or Sunday. And I'm not saying that you have to be this athlete, you know, that's of epic proportions. But what I am saying is, you know, maybe some days it's just a walk around the park. But every day, get your body moving. It's critical. It's, you know, again, for me, it's this. But it is for all those. So whether you have a weight issue or you don't, your body, you don't know what's going on in there. I was the thin, unhealthy on the inside. So don't think that if you don't have a weight issue, it's not important. It is critical. So you get the food down, you get just get your body moving. And if it's 5 minutes, you just have to trick yourself and say, okay, I'm going to do this for 5 minutes. Because it's really funny. Once you just do something for 5 minutes and you get, you know, it's like you take one step.
It's the first step to get you going, right, on everything.
It is. Yeah. It is. And then the third part of the fire-driven life that I think is really important is, and it was the one I resisted the most, and for good reason, and that was meditation. Now it's been about almost 4 years now that I have been meditating, and I brought my family. I started doing transcendental meditation, brought my daughters along and my husband. I didn't want to meditate because I knew if I got still, I'd have to listen to the stuff that was going on inside. And I didn't want to listen to the stuff that was going on, the self-talk, the shame, the guilt, the stuff that have been dealing with for much of my life.
So you thought by meditating, you'd be taking all your thoughts that were making you uneasy and dwelling on them, when actually meditation really does the opposite.
That. Exactly, yeah. But let me just tell you that so I resisted, and I have a Sikh friend of mine who, you know, took me to India, and he was kind of my first entry into meditation. And when I finally said, okay, I'm going to do this, I bought myself a beautiful altar when I was in India, and they had the whole thing set up so that I could have make it just right. I sat down, and something amazing happened. I did hear talk. I did hear but I also had a peace come over me. When you get still, you hear the answers to a lot of things, even though, you know, because as long as you bury it, it's still going to be there. You've got it. So for me, another light bulb moment came up one day. It says, oh, Vanessa, you got to start sharing your stuff. I'm sitting there and I'm meditating. It says, you got to share your stuff. You got to share all the kind of the shamey stuff and the guilt that you carried throughout your life. And I was like, oh no, for 40 some years, I've squashed that. I've tried to lock that, throw the key away. I don't want anyone to know my bad parts, because if they know my bad parts, I won't be loved.
Yeah.
I won't be loved. And let me just tell you, I mean, I get chills thinking about it, because it's still so valuable and I felt like I was a bird that had been let out of a bird cage, just free. I was scared because this was not something, you know, that I understood, but I started sharing that. So this meditation, I'm not saying that, you know, I'm probably scaring people to think, well, I'm not going to do what she's doing because they're going to be bringing up some of the dark stuff. I'm not saying you have to share it with the world. I did. I started speaking on all my things, and the funny thing happened is they loved me more.
So in other words, I mean, what you're really saying is that you have to take time every day to do certain things for yourself, whether it's taking some time to move, taking some time to be still, and taking some time to eat, you know, to choose to eat properly. You know, I remember as a kid, when you read about the Garden of Eden, you know, one of the first things they talk about in the Garden of Eden, allegedly, is that Adam and Eve ate all of the fruits and vegetables, that none of the animals killed each other. So, I mean, even theoretically, from a religious base, I mean, there was indications that, hey, fruits and vegetables are the ideal diet.
Absolutely.
And of course, obviously, you know, there wasn't much to do except walk around in the Garden of Eden. Right. So moving around was ideal, and you had plenty of time to go in and meditate, I assume. But you know, I mean, that's how things started. So it all seems, you know, just getting back to basics. But in order to do that, you know, you have to have some direction. This book is delightful in that it provides that, whether it's helpful with recipes, helpful with making lifestyle choices, and you know, and we talked before we went on the air. We're talking about Whole Foods. You know, it's in most cities the only place you can really get organic healthy food is at Whole Foods. You were saying that not all the foods in Whole Foods are healthy, and now, of course, there's a lot of competition for fruits and vegetables, right?
I think Whole Foods has done a fantastic job, by the way. I mean, they have done an incredible job to bringing kind of this whole plant-based movement and plant-centered. Obviously, they're not just a plant-based grocery store, but they've really done an incredible job in bringing it to market. I mean, I love Whole Foods for so many, of the right reasons. But that, and they're, now it's become the trend, organic, to eat healthier. I'm loving. I feel like we're finally like almost at that tipping point with this lifestyle. But there's lots of there are a lot of competition popping up, and it's either Whole Foods is people either love it or they don't.
Right.
There's kind of that in between.
Right, but you can eat reasonably organic fruits and vegetables
yes,
at other places.
Ed, if you know, and I talk about this in my book, if you know how to shop a grocery store, like Whole Foods, it won't be Whole Paycheck, which people like to call Whole Foods. Yeah. I mean, I can show people how to do this by picking the right brands, using their 365 brand, and choosing the right products. The biggest thing is don't shop. The perimeter. That's where you want to go in any grocery store, where all the fruits and vegetables are. You start buying into the marketing BS and the package, that's when you're going to get yourself in trouble. You're going to get yourself in trouble from your health, from your pocketbook, and everything in between. It's about really the less labeling, the stuff that are fruits, grains, beans, vegetables, legumes. That's what you want to be doing.
If you want to hear more about The Fire-Driven Life by Vanessa Chamberlin, you can capture her book, right?
Yes, on Amazon.
Right?
Yes,
Where is it?
It's everywhere books are sold. Actually, August 10th.
Which is nowhere. At Amazon.
August 10th, but we have it on my website, on Amazon. I've got an international deal, so it's there. Whatever country that you may be watching from.
Right.
It's
and on
everywhere.
your website, you have little tips and
I have
tidbits.
tips. I have videos. I have all of that. And at the end of the day, we have to be. It's called self-care. It's not called selfish. So you touched on. Every day we got to do a little bit for ourselves. If we want to serve the world and our families and do anything better, it starts with feeding ourselves first.
Okay, so feed yourself, be healthy, be happy.
That's right.
And take some tips from Vanessa. Thanks,
Thank
Vanessa.
you. Thank you.
Accidents don't discriminate. They can happen anywhere to anybody. It really comes down to results.
Enough said. Call Ed.
I'm Ed Bernstein, and I've been getting those results for nearly 40 years.
EdBernstein.com.